Here we
We
go.
are live. Welcome to a better daily show. My name is Gentry, your host. We are joined by Fabian, the best co-host in all the land. We got an amazing show for you today. We'll be right back after this.
And also, we got some good news for you coming up. So we'll be right back.
What a teaser, Fabian. What's this good news? Are
The
we
good
going to wait
news is
for it,
that
or
the good news is that we are here, and we are releasing a lot of content coming up. I actually this morning I was working on the Woke Origin series that's going to be coming out very, very soon this coming week. So very excited for that. Um, I'm trying to really keep it in layman's terms. So really, really try to explain what the heck all this stuff is without using big language or esoteric kinds of things, which is what most philosophers, the way they speak. So trying to get that out to you in the simplest way possible so you can understand what the heck is really going on here and how to fight it.
that's amazing. I first found you from those videos that you put out on this same topic.
Mm.
And I'm really excited to see what you're going to come up with because it actually helped teach me a lot of stuff. So really
Yeah,
excited.
it's
I
just
think there's go.
Oh, I've always hated illogical things. I've grown up since a kid just liking logic, things that make sense. And this just made no sense to me. So the deeper I got into it, the more convoluted it made reality. And then I realized that that was the entire point of it, is to convolute reality until you don't even know where reality is. So that's when I really, really started talking out against it. And this is just the next level of that roadmap.
Mm-hmm. That's that's incredible. So we also have some other potentially good news. Um, Chris Cuomo said that he is potentially open to voting for Trump, but
Yep.
he said it in this weird backwards way that really made you think about what he was saying, kind of like what you just alluded to, just confusion in what he was saying. But he was on the Patrick Bet David podcast, and he basically said he's open to another Trump presidency. He made a couple good points where he says that he thinks that the country is bigger than just one job or one office or the government, right? He said that we survived January 6th. Here, let's watch the clip.
All right.
With Biden. And for people who are now going to attack me and say, what are you talking about? Trump is like this crazy man. If it's Biden, Trump, look, for me, again, we survived a Trump administration. Would we survive another one? Yes. Yes. I don't think there's any greater risk to America with him than with Biden. And for people who are now going to attack me and say, what are you talking about? Trump is like this crazy man. Well, look, you know, as Patrick says, the data is the data. Nobody was trying to kill us when Trump was president in a way that they're not now. If anything, there's more hostility. And you can have reasons for that any way you want. I'm just saying, existentially, I'm not afraid of a Trump presidency. Existentially, I'm not afraid of another Biden presidency because, unlike many people in America, I believe that the country is much stronger than any individual leader. We survived the Russia thing. We survived January 6th. We survived having Biden as a gaffe machine. We survived Congress going after each other and doing nothing for the rest of us. We survived these things. Are we better for it? No. Should we be doing things differently? Yes. I think it happens. I don't know when. I don't even know why. But, you know, in terms of who I'm going to vote for, I would really have to see where we are at that moment in time. And
so you're open to Trump vote?
I am always open. And I'll tell you this. People say, oh, bullshit, you've never voted for a Republican in your life. Wrong. And not only have I? The first vote I ever cast was for a Republican.
Wow. Uh, to hear Chris Cuomo say that, uh, remember, this is the guy that shut himself in his basement during COVID for 2 weeks and filmed everything about how he felt every single day. I don't know if you watch this, but he scared the crap out of people. He says, "My wife is upstairs. She comes down. She takes the big chance in coming down to the basement to give me my soup and my food. I have these crazy dreams and I wake up sweating." And it's just, he was the first CNN anchor to get it. And he chronicled the entire, uh, COVID sickness and made it out just to be something incredibly scary. Now, for someone like that to come around, obviously he hasn't apologized for what he's done, but for him to say something like that, it's a very big step.
Yeah, I don't agree with Chris Cuomo on a lot, but I do like how he's moving more towards the center. And if you zoom out on like the macro picture of the American political landscape, the American cultural landscape, it's only a good thing when you move towards the center, right? So I would compare him to like a Bill Maher or a Tulsi Gabbard or a Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily there all the way, but he's moving in the right direction. His brother, right, was the mayor of or the
New
governor
York.
of New York, and so I mean they have like a really strong Democratic households, and probably are the reason why so many Americans have a lot of these Democratic talking points, right? And so the fact that he's kind of seeing the light and spreading all this, um, not even leftist, it's so it to be honest, it gives me hope, right? I'm not a diehard Chris Cuomo fan. But the last year or so, I've really liked what I've seen from him because he's not so radical. I mean, even the fact that he said he would consider a Trump presidency, that he's open to that, is really big. And I think he's trying to toe the line a little bit because he is a Democrat and he still feels loyalty to his party, which I totally understand. I'm a Republican and I feel so much loyalty to my party, but he's seeing all the division. He's seeing that there's even issues within his own party that is causing a huge rift. I bet you that it's a lot to do with this Israel-Palestine thing, because he's seeing riots in New York and he's like, these are the same people that I supported during BLM. What's going on? Like he's pondering the intersectionality, right? The people who are holding two opposing viewpoints, and he's like, these don't match up at all.
Yeah, he is seeing what we've been talking about for a while, which was these people that are doing all this protesting. They're protesting anything. They got the ceasefire that they've been protesting for, and they're still protesting. It's not about any one specific thing. Leftist, and you can read about this and beautifultrouble.org, where they say push the boundaries until you feel that there's so much resistance that you can't get past it, and then retreat and then push the boundaries again. Because once they're accustomed to you being at that line, you can push the boundaries the next time around. So you push as far as you can push, you get to that line, you retreat, and then you push again and you go further. So he's realizing that these are not people who believe in a democratic process, who believe in a free sovereign America. These are leftists, which are very different than Democrats and very different from liberals. These are leftists. And that's the most important thing that I think he's starting to finally realize is these people don't care about America, democratic process, capitalism, democracy, pluralism. These are leftists through and through. These are Marxist communists. So if anyone's confused, what's a leftist? Just think Marxism, communism. That is the angle of all these ideologies, and they are going to eat their own. Yesterday, just to make a quick point, it really struck me. I was laughing, but it kind of hit me. There was a gay guy in Amsterdam who they interviewed, who voted for Geert Wilders, who is a far right politician that just destroyed everyone and won the majority, like more than anyone has won, and I think like the last like 50 years in Amsterdam as far as parliamentary seats. And they asked him, "You're a gay man. Why did you vote for Geert Wilders?" And he said, "Because I feel I'm in danger when I walk down the street because there are so many Muslims that are homophobic, and I voted for him because I want things to go back to normal. We have too many immigrants."
Mhm.
Completely fine, rational from a gay white Dutch guy, right? So now, if you're a leftist and this is all about oppression, it's like levels, right? The more you're oppressed, the higher you are on the wow, you're amazing list. If the white man is the oppressor and they oppress the gay people, so the gays are the good people, right? They're the good guys. Muslims are oppressed by Western society, so the Muslims are the good people. But now, when you go one layer down, you have a gay guy who is white, who is speaking out against Muslims and immigration because of the way that he's treated. Who do you support? Who is the most oppressed? Is it the Muslim immigrants or is it the gay white guy? You cannot resolve that. And this is what, and Jordan Peterson even talks about this, is the left will eat their own.
Mhm.
When you have everyone on the same level, you still have to fight about something. And intersectionality means that you can divide people as to the smallest iota that you'd like and pit them against someone else. So that's what we're seeing happen now.
Mhm. Yeah. Chris Cuomo, going back to him and just kind of zooming out on the whole landscape. Not everyone is going to listen to us. Not everyone's going to listen to Charlie Kirk or Dan Bongino. Just because, I mean, we're very far to the right in a lot of ways. But it's fine. We're building our audience and we're trying to get the truth out. I feel like there's a big gap in the middle. And that's where a Joe Rogan, a Chris Cuomo, Russell Brand, and all these other characters are starting to understand and starting to fill in. And I don't necessarily think it's opportunistic, right? Because I think in a lot of ways they're fueling the charge to get back to the center, which, to be honest, is where a lot of us are, right? If you look at
Yeah,
like
I
the
would actually say I'm not far right. I'm a registered independent, and I just like logic and I understand that humanity needs morals. They need meta narratives. So the human race needs a direction to go, and
Mhm,
religion throughout history has provided that direction, that morality. But as I believe it was Freud who said, "God is dead and we killed him," meaning God is dead. We don't. The morality is done, and He foresaw what's going to happen now. Because if you don't follow any kind of a moral compass, then you devolve into these different ideologies of confusion, which is what we're seeing happen now.
mhm,
So, I think a lot of people are just moderate. I mean, the majority of voters are independent by a large margin.
yeah.
So it's interesting to see how this is playing out.
Well, I'm just using the same terminology that the left uses, but you're right. I think a lot of our views are pretty much in the middle, right? Right of center, maybe even just right. Because, I mean, if you look at the way that the lines have been divided and moved, people who are Democrats, right, 20 years ago are now line up with the same views that Republicans have. But there's such a stigma around the word Republican, and there's such a stigma around the word Democrat from both sides that
Nobody wants to
people are
be
just,
that.
no one wants to be that,
Yeah, yeah.
right? If you're on the other side, you don't want to be a Democrat. But my thought process is, and you're 100% right on, like, religion driving morality, like, throughout the world. If all of a sudden Democrats start to align with my views and how I see the world through a biblical lens, I'm voting Democrat, right? It's like I'm not married to the Republican Party. I just see that they are so much more aligned with what I believe, and because we only have two options, that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was speaking to a friend of mine who lives in London yesterday, central London, and she was out walking, and she goes, "I can't. I'm up to my limits with these damn protesters because we know there's hundreds of thousands of protesters that are protesting for this, Israel Gaza thing or whatever." And she said, "I am up to my I forget the terminology. She said it's a British terminology, but anyway, I said, "Is it British people that are out there, or is it really like the immigrants, or is it like who is it?" She goes,
Hmm.
"It's really there's a little bit of everything in it." And we started talking about religion and the Bible, and she says, she goes, "I'm actually becoming a Bible basher." I said, "A Bible basher? I guess in England that means like someone who talks about religion." I thought it was like someone who bashes the Bible, but the way they say it is about a Bible basher is someone who starts talking to people about the Bible.
Oh, like a Bible thumper here.
Yes, like you start
Yeah.
talking positively about religion, and this is
Hmm.
someone who was never religious, but I think she saw something wrong with the way the world is going, and now she's using religion to kind of put everything into perspective, which is what I think is eventually going to happen. You're seeing people that are coming out and really, really like reinvigorating their faith, or the faith they never had, or the faith that they've lost, because they see this existential threat and this Marxist ideology that's completely anti-religious.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I mean, that even happened to me in 2020, right? I saw COVID, I saw the BLM riots, and I was like, there is something wrong here, right? And I grew up Christian. I grew up in the church and was homeschooled, all that kind of stuff, but was too sheltered, I think. And so I just kind of went away from it. But then when I saw all the stupidness that was happening in the world, I was like, what the heck is going on? And it actually drove me back to the church. It drove me to a spot where I was like, I got to get right with God because I know this is the right way to go because of how weird the world is. And that was even in 2020. The world has gotten to be a crazier place now. In my view, I think that it's going to go so far to the left, so bad that it's going to slingshot people into the church. It's going to slingshot people into religion. I bet you in the next few years, we're going to see Bible sales go through the roof. We're going to see the Bible app downloads go through the roof. I firmly believe that because people are going to try to figure out what's going on. And all these men, all these people who are trying to explain everything, trying to explain why you know, why terrorists are good and why transing your kids is a good idea and why it's good to be a victim and the oppressed, they're not making any sense because of this whole intersectionality thing, because you can just divide people by race, gender, socioeconomic, like the whole nine yards. It's going to slingshot so far to the right, so far, and people are going to pick up their Bibles and start reading again.
Yeah, and at that point we have to be worried about a overcorrection too far to the right. But you're always worried about something. Humanity is always on a path forward. Time moves in a forward cone. We're trying to go down the middle because the world wants equilibrium, and sometimes that equilibrium gets out of whack. If you're playing a guitar and you pull the string, the harder you pull it, the bigger noise it's going to make, and the more it's going to go to the other side. It's a wave, and
Mhm.
we've been pulled too far to the left, and the people in the middle are waking up, and they are going to be making a lot of noise. I mean, we already see it across the world in Argentina and in the Netherlands and even in Norway and Sweden. It's starting to spread. This counter movement is starting to spread. It hasn't quite, and I would argue that it hasn't quite got here yet. And I believe it's because we haven't been pushed as far as countries like Europe have. But with all these illegal people coming over the border, I think it's coming very soon. At that point, The country's going to have to make a very hard decision, when you have so many illegal people here to get them out. And, at that point, that'll be a bridge to cross. But one of the things that I was thinking about yesterday is I was listening to Peter Zeihan, and he's my favorite geopolitical strategist. Like, the guy is amazing. And he was talking about how the fact that we have a shrinking population means fewer consumers, because people that spend money are families, right? In your 20s and your 30s is when you spend your most amount of money, because you're creating a family, you're doing things, you're traveling. That section of the population was filled by the boomers, which are now retiring. They're not doing the things that they used to do. And this new generation, Gen Z, they are very antisocial. Um, Most of them don't even drink, which is not a bad thing, but drinking fuels a lot of events and just parties and things like that. They're antisocial and they don't like to work together and they don't travel. So now you have an entire generation of people who aren't spending money, they're just online. So the consumer base is drastically dwindling. So how do you, if you're Apple and you see sales of iPhones going down and there's really not much, technology has really hit the limit of what we can offer. You see China, who is degrading themselves, and the ability to create iPhones, which has something like I think like over 2,000 steps to create one, is degrading. How do you get more consumers to keep your company afloat? You almost need new people coming into the country, whether by birth or by immigration, because that creates an entirely new consumer class and cheap labor. So there's an aspect to that as well. So I forgot where I was going with that, but that's something really important to consider as well. Who benefits from having a bunch of immigrants here?
Democrats, companies. I mean,
And I
we
think
have
that's
them
why we've
on.
seen corporations cozy up with this leftist stuff.
It's so weird. Well, why don't we talk about Disney a little bit? I know we talked about it on the podcast earlier, but let's talk about Disney after a commercial.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting topic.
And we're back. Super excited about that show that Michael's coming out with. I can't say enough good things about him and his mind. He is quite brilliant. Maybe the layman's Jordan Peterson, some would call him, because he puts it in terms that people can understand. I love Jordan, but sometimes I get lost in what he's saying. Anyway, the big story today is a backlash from the Elon Musk interview that went supernova viral yesterday, where he basically told all the advertisers to F off. And then he calls out Bob Iger specifically. And it was a huge thing.
Yep.
It's made ripples throughout the internet. And now today, this morning, there is a ton of calls to cancel Disney Plus subscriptions. Now, I would encourage everybody to go do that, not necessarily because you want to boycott Disney, but because you're wasting $14 a month. You're not watching it. I know you're not watching it because the content that they're putting out is terrible. If it was good content, it'd be harder to cancel. If it was good content, then
You'd watch
I
it.
lost my train of thought.
But you'd watch it though.
Exactly.
And I made the point on the podcast where I love the Star Wars series. I love Mandalorian. I liked Andor a lot. After the third time trying to watch it, I really got into it and really liked it. But this last one, Ahsoka, and a friend of mine who's a very big Disney nut, Star Wars nut, he made a few good points, and I haven't really heard anyone make these points. Number one is you don't see a man in Ahsoka till maybe like, I don't know, like the middle of the first episode. It's all women. That's fine. The other thing is he was really mad because in Star Wars, a lightsaber is the most powerful weapon. It cuts through anything. No one's ever survived being sliced or stabbed with a lightsaber. It kills you until there's a female, and I don't know the character's name, inside of Ashoka who gets a lightsaber directly through her gut and somehow survived.
Mhm.
Okay, and now this for Star Wars fan, this is a no. This is a you do not cross that line because you
Mhm.
diminish the power of the lightsaber. You diminish the power of the Jedi. So he
Mhm.
goes, it's interesting that no one has ever survived it until a woman did, and now the women are more stronger than the men. And he even pointed out Marvel does the same thing. They're turning all the superheroes into women, and they're making them stronger than the men. Like the
Well,
female Hulk, the female everything.
I will push back on that because Darth Maul did survive.
Darth Maul survived. Did he get sliced or did he get
He got cut in half, and then later in the series, right? He is a Sith Lord with like spider legs, right? He's got this like
so
platform,
he's
and
like he's a cyborg at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, he's a
Yeah,
cyborg, right?
got
So
it.
I
Got it.
will push back on that a little bit, but I do see what you're saying. Like lightsabers are because he got cut in half, right?
Yeah.
Like lightsabers are the craziest tools, and they're the show isn't about lightsabers, but they're just dumbing down the content for some reason. Like I don't even know why. Like I watched Ahsoka for a couple of episodes, and it didn't interest me. I didn't see it as being overly woke. You know, it's had women lead actors, which I was like, okay, well, it's better than having them be gay, right? And that's another thing that like we're always watching these shows trying to find the wokeness because we're just like we don't necessarily want to see that. I think potentially it's a symptom of the writers' strike. I mean, I don't know if you have watched anything new that Disney's put out, or not Disney, but Netflix has put out, but it's been god awful.
Oh, Netflix is
I, I,
horrible. I canceled it a
it's
while ago.
I've stopped watching new shows and only started watching like the old movies from 2010 because they're fantastic. My favorite one that I watched the other day was London Has Fallen. Great
Mm.
movie, great freaking movie, right? But this whole writer strike, the wokeness of Hollywood, it's not working out for them, and I don't know why they're doubling down. In fact, I posted a few days ago that Disney had quietly admitted that the ESG, the DEI stuff, the wokeness wasn't helping at all. And I wonder what the response will be from Disney today, because from my understanding, thousands of people have canceled their Disney Plus membership. And I bet you by the end of the day, it'll be tens of thousands. And that
Things
can't,
like this spread quickly.
it's going to spread like wildfire because number one, we're boycotting the boycotters, right? So there's a cause there. But then number two, it's easy to cancel it because it's terrible content.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at what Robbie Starbuck posted today about the hashtag bend the knee.
Big fan of Robbie. Love this guy.
Yeah, so apparently he posted Operation Bend the Knee has begun. We have the power to make Disney bend the knee to us by resuming ads here, meaning X. Don't make one purchase that gives them a dime and Disney Plus subscriptions. No Disney Christmas gift for kids. Force Bob Iger to bend the knee to us and Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this a little bit before, where Bob Iger, he was old and now is a new CEO after leaving for a little, and his job is to make Disney back to its former glory.
Make
He has a
Disney great again.
make Disney
Some
great
would
again.
say.
That's a good slogan. And there's a gentleman that was rumored to want to, and you know his name. I forget his name.
Yeah, his
Uh,
name is Nelson Peltz, and he's partnered up with Ike Perlmutter. And Ike is a former Disney executive. He was on the Marvel team, so he's got a lot of really good experience in fantastic content. But he was ousted a couple years ago because he didn't want it to go woke. He's also a big contributor to the Trump campaign.
Exactly. And the rumor is that they want this transition time to get the stock price lower so that they can buy up a ton of the shares and then have be able to direct the board, have board seats to influence the decision that Disney goes. Because at the end of the day, the CEO has to answer to the board,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever owns the board really runs the company. The
Mm-hmm.
CEO is just in charge of the executives and the day-to-day stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the board can make the CEO resign. So you have to really take over the board in order to implement these changes. So I don't know if Bob Iger, I don't know enough about Bob Iger, but I don't know if he's really the bad guy, like the boogeyman, or if he's a strategist and he knows that the only way to save Disney is by letting him go through this tough time so that they can realize, look, on paper, we've lost money. A CEO of a company's job is to make money. Let's stop doing what's not working and let's start doing what we know worked for the entire history of Disney, minus the weird pedo stuff that they used to do.
Interesting. So what you're saying is potentially Bob Iger is partnered up with Nelson and Ike to tank the company so they can take control.
If you have a set amount of money that you can invest and your stock price is
Interesting.
high, you're going to get less stock. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have to get, and now Disney is not a cheap stock,
Mm-hmm.
but to get enough shares, you want the price to be low that we can get
Mm-hmm.
more of a controlling interest in the company so that when you go to the board meetings, you essentially have more power.
Interesting. I like that theory. We don't necessarily have anything to back it, but it's a pretty good theory. Um, we'll see how it plays out for him.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is to take the line from dodgeball. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out for him.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that they have to figure is that if the company does too bad for too long, Bob Iger is going to get the boot,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's going to be a lot harder at that point. So if that's a strategy you're going for, it's a very fine line that you're walking. And we'll see where it goes. But this is not good for anyone at Disney. This bend the knee campaign, but they want to remove ads off X. This is, I guess, what they get. Like Elon says, the people are the judge.
And I love that he sent it out to us because he realizes that we're the customers, right? There is power to the people, but not in like a Marxist way. It's more of in a populist way, right? We're not beholden to these powerful people because in a large sense, we put them there, right?
Yep.
Like one of the reasons why Bob Iger became CEO of Disney is because he proved himself because he created content that we liked to consume. And then he became
He
CEO
figured out
and
the
he
customer.
and he crushed it with, I mean, I don't necessarily like the direction that they've gone with Star Wars, but that's a pretty good acquisition.
Yeah.
And Marvel just up until COVID dominated. I was so excited to go watch another Marvel movie because it was the greatest story that's ever been on screen.
Yeah. The last Marvel movie that I saw was the one with the guy with the rings. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't know his name, but
yeah.
so I don't watch a lot of movies, but when I do, it has to be a good movie. But I
Mm-hmm.
know that one was incredibly good. For me, I think they've oversaturated the movie industry with the CGI. I would much rather see a movie where there's actual like costume design, not costume design, but where the sets are made with real stuff like they used to be
Mm-hmm.
with before they got overly CGI. Because then it's a rinse and repeat. They just do these ridiculous things, and it just doesn't look real,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's CGI. And I would like to go back to more of a storyline than just all CGI because it
Mm-hmm.
can look great, like Transformers looks great, but the storyline can be ridiculous. And the lines that the speakers, the lines that the actors say are just ridiculous. So I don't care if it looks like you're in space, just make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah. Well, there is a push to go back to more of a story like a story movie, a storyline. There's actually a movie coming out on Friday, tomorrow. It's called The Shift, and it's
Hmm.
by Angel Studios, and it's supposed to be like a modernized version of the story of Job from the Bible. And if you know anything about
Interesting.
Job, he was a really good dude. He was a righteous guy, and Satan went to God and said, "Let me mess with him because you've given him everything. Let's test Job." And God's like, "Sure, do it. Bet." God said bet. And then he goes in and messes with Job to try to get him to, curse God and die. Right? That's a line from Job, and he doesn't. And so this movie that's coming out tomorrow in theaters, by the way, The Shift, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great movie. It's going to do numbers. The last movie that Angel Studios put out was Sound of Freedom, and it
Oh,
crushed.
same movie studio.
Same
Wow.
movie studio, so they crushed the box office. They beat out Indiana Jones. This independent studio is beating out huge franchises like Indiana Jones because they're telling real stories in a masterful way. And there's not any CGI because it's really expensive to do that. It's all crowdfunded too, which is really cool, by the
That's
way.
amazing.
So, I mean, I think studios like Angel Studios, potentially the future of Hollywood, of the movie business, because number one, they're seeing the cultural shift, and number two, they know what people want to go see, which is heartfelt movies, movies that people can relate to, movies that move the needle as far as like a moral cultural movement, right? So,
Yeah, I wanted to pull up the Sound of Freedom here because I wanted to see how much money it made. It made $247 million worldwide.
mhm. That's a
That's
big
incredible.
movie. That's a huge movie. That's
I wonder what the cost was to make that. It couldn't be more than like, I
I
mean, I
think
really don't know. I would say 20 million.
I think the numbers I saw were 11 million. So,
Wow.
but let's put in perspective, right? Some of the biggest movies in the world, like a Marvel movie, has made 2 billion, right? Um, so they're one of their first box office movies did 10% of that, and they did they did it on less of a budget, right? It probably cost like $500 million to make one of the Marvel movies,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
one of
Including
those.
marketing and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys are
So
crushing it, and
14.5 million is what it cost to make Sound of Freedom.
holy moly,
50-ish, 280,
250. Yeah,
250.
yeah.
That is an incredible, and here's what I immediately think about. You have a studio that invested 14.5 million, made 250 million. Now they have so much more ammo, so much more money to now continue to making more and more movies. Like, think about that. The investors made back a ton of money, but they spread a good message, not just some stupid like Ant-Man or Bugman, whatever that movie
Yeah.
was, the Marvel one.
Mhm,
And now you give them a lot more ammunition to
mhm.
create multiple movies like this with good storyline
Yeah.
and not all CGI stuff that people can actually like really dive into and understand and learn and then go out to the world and spread this information.
Well, it's amazing because, like you said, the message was really really good, right? It's about sex trafficking. It's exposing all of this evil that's in the world, and they made a fantastic movie about it. So number one, if it didn't have a good message, it still crushed it, right? But it did have a good message, so it's a double whammy. And a lot of the proceeds did go to sex trafficking efforts, in order to stop it. But this movie that's coming out called The Shift, and other movies that they're coming out with too, it has a moral underlying message, right?
And that's what we've lost in filmmaking is the story of morality instead of the story about an individual going on a little hero's journey.
Well, I would say it's always been there. It's just that it's been appropriated by the left, right? So the Mockingbird, or Operation Mockingbird, right? It was a CIA operation, and they went into media, news, all this kind of stuff, and they tested people with LSD and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. But what they figured out is that they could create psychological operations, psyops, and use media and Hollywood, and people would be none the wiser, right? There was a classic story where a radio station played this show about an alien invasion back in like the 60s or the 70s or something like that, and people panicked because of it. They didn't understand what was going on, and turns out it was fake, or like I don't know necessarily the ending of the story, but they use media to create like to create chaos.
Yeah, it was
And so
the War of the Worlds in 1938. They had a radio show saying that that aliens have landed, that a
Mhm.
Martian invasion was taking place, and it was the biggest rib that I mean I think has ever been done, because at that point there was only the radio to listen to. You didn't have TV.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
just insane that they did that,
Mhm.
but it
But
worked.
and so there's been a huge relationship with the CIA and Hollywood to get certain messages out. I mean, we've seen a lot of these writers, like a Tom Clancy, who has probably gotten some classified documents to go write movies and or sorry, books that turn into movies, about these, crazy operations that are going on to get people interested in war and all this kind of stuff. Apparently, the Air Force was a big sponsor of Top Gun, and every time when the first Top Gun came out, the Air Force had a crazy number of people signing up for it. And then this last time when Top Gun came out, which by the way, Top Gun was one of the best movies
Yep.
in the last 20 years. It was
Yep.
so good, so American. It was unbelievable. But the recruiting for the military skyrocketed. There's even a trend a couple years ago from Netflix where there was a movie about chess, and everybody went out and bought chess. They bought chessboards, they bought courses, they went online and started to play. And there's a huge amount of influence that Hollywood and media has, and the playbook is there. The left has just adopted the playbook because they've done it slowly over time, and they've built up these huge infrastructures. And now what we're seeing is this big pushback using the same playbook, by the way, right? The same exact playbook, but just with a different message. I love it.
Absolutely. Yep. I know, and you're absolutely right about the Queen's Gambit. Being a chess player, I play in tournaments, and it was insane. After that movie came out, the tournaments that I would go to, they literally doubled in size. They doubled in size. There was no more room in these massive hotel ballrooms for people to play chess. The servers on chess.com were going down because they were literally they were doubling the amount of people that were playing all the time. The servers were going down. They were saying, "Hey, we're so sorry. We just have so many people." Now
Mm,
there's something like 20 million people plus, over 20 million people just on that chess.com app. So it really moved people to a good place. I think chess is one of the best things that you can do for your mind. I play like 2 hours a day. It's the only thing that I do, other than, think and work. It's the only entertainment that I do is chess. With it's just incredible how they can move people to be exposed to something that has kind of fallen off. And I think, kind of going back to what we were talking about, where you have people that are now being reinvigorated in their faith and in their beliefs and in their morals. I think that Sound of Freedom and movies like it by Angel Studio can really help start shifting this generation who's just fed up with this leftist wokeness stuff, but doesn't have any alternative or any easily accessible alternative without having to do a deep dive by themselves. This is a way to get to the consumer good moral stories and videos and images and movies to move them into this new world where they have morals and values, and they do research things like this.
100%. You're spot on. Here's two more examples of what we're talking about. F1, the series on Netflix. It came out, amazing story. I watched a few episodes. I was like, this is awesome. I didn't get into it, but I have a ton of people who are really interested in F1 now. And there's F1 races popping up all throughout the US. It's a big social media craze. People didn't really know about it or want to even look at it until they started to understand the story behind these drivers, right? The second story, which I think is a brilliant move by Apple TV, they got the rights to the MLS, and so you have to go to Apple TV to go watch the MLS. But then people weren't watching the MLS, so they would try to figure out what to do next. They remembered this skit from SNL, and they turned it into a show called Ted Lasso. I watched all of Ted Lasso. I freaking loved it. I didn't get into soccer because of it, but people are just way, way, way more into soccer now because of this show.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same thing with the company, or sorry, the soccer team that Ryan Reynolds and the guy from It's Always Sunny, they bought it for like $3 million or something, Wrexham. And now it's worth, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of dollars. And they just won the league. So now they were like in the league below the league you want to be in. And now they are in the league. So they're going to be playing Manchester United. They're going to be playing West Ham United. So Chelsea and all these other teams. So they're just making a ton of money, but they made a show about it. So it was real life, but it was a show. So look, if that's what's working right now, great. If it's for a good cause, great. What I don't want to see is a bunch of shows about people living as trans and all the stuff they go through and how they're the hero and how they should be exalted, or just any issue, right? It's interesting to see how media is changing to get into the psychology of the person that they can't get into as easily anymore because we're so inundated with advertisements. We just shut a lot of things off.
Exactly. Well, there's a big shift. We're moving towards a good place in media, I think. And every time a movie like The Shift comes out, or Sound of Freedom, I think Angel Studios is actually coming out with Bonhoeffer, story about Bonhoeffer, which is incredible. Do you know about Bonhoeffer?
No.
Oh, you're about to be obsessed. Okay, check this out. He was a preacher. He was a preacher in Nazi Germany. Okay. And he saw what was going on with the Jews, and he devised a plan. This pastor devised a plan to kill Hitler.
That's
a pastor,
interesting.
a preacher.
Yeah.
And he's one of the most like studied people in history because of his radical views that really line up. It's wild. So like the there's a couple of movies on it. What's that one with I'm blanking on the names right now, but there's a couple World War II movies that have come
Like
out.
Schindler's List or something, or like the
Not
Valkyrie.
Schindler's List. It's Valkyrie.
Valkyrie.
So the story of Valkyrie is about Bonhoeffer, but they don't show Bonhoeffer because it's a Hollywood production. They don't want to shed any light to this stuff, which is really, So
got it.
Yeah,
really, that was a great movie. Story. That was a great movie.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was upset they didn't have Bonhoeffer in it, but Dietrich Bonhoeffer, go look him up. He is a freaking champion of the faith, and I think
so the studio making the movie is that Angel Studio or a different one?
Angel Studios, yeah.
Same as Sound of Freedom. That's interesting. So they are doing good things, and they have a lot of money, like I said, to now even increase production if they'd like. And without giving a cut to all these different conglomerates that just take a cut and to distribute the movie and everything. It's more of a direct to consumer. Well, you will still using the theater as a vehicle to show the people. So that's really incredible. And a lot of the money and marketing goes directly to the people rather than going to these big corporations to market.
Mhm.
So maybe they can start advertising on X for the next movie since they got a lot of money from the last one.
Mhm. I I think they will. They're spending a lot of money right now on marketing. So, um, all right, one last movie story, and then let's end this. Lady Ballers.
On Daily Wire.
Have we talked about this or no?
No, and I've seen the trailer and I want to see it.
I, I I think we have to see it.
We should watch it live uh online.
It comes out tomorrow night. I'm going to go see The Shift tomorrow night, but we could do it on Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll just because if we stream it, it's technically illegal, right?
Yes, that's
Because you
true.
have to get a
That's
Daily
true.
Wire Plus.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
go watch the trailer to Lady Ballers. It is the 2023 version of The Ringer. And if you don't know what that is, it's Johnny Knoxville doing this slap. And
And
it's the
Gentry's gone. Oh, he's back now. All right. I thought the CIA got you. I got the CIA cut our stream.
No, but he pretends to have a mental illness and a handicap to go compete in the Special Olympics to get this girl. I don't know how it was going to work out for him in the first place, but it's the 2023 version, and it's amazing. Where this basketball team pretends to be trans to go win. It's going to be one of the greatest movies of all time. I think they have a whole bunch of like Hollywood people in the movie too, which
Hmm.
I think is awesome. A whole bunch of influencers, a whole bunch of new people on the scene. So like I'm incredibly excited.
Yeah, and to be honest, so I usually go see AM, well, not usually, but every so often I'll go to AMC Tuesday. They have like these $5 movies here.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if they have it everywhere, but and so I don't know what's playing. I don't go anymore, but I was going for a few months. And these movies that I was watching were absolutely horrendous. Like I would walk out to a lot of them because I'm like, how in the hell can you put this on a big screen? So I would much rather spend my time watching something like The Ringer than I would 99% of the movies that are coming out in regular theaters with regular production companies because it's just it doesn't make sense to watch crap because you're wasting your time. I'd much rather watch a video on YouTube where I'm learning something than spend the time watching something that I'm going to forget about in a day or two. Now, what is a woman? I'm not going to forget that. That is unique. This movie, this is the first that I've ever seen like this, so I'm not going to forget that. So it's the uniqueness of it that I like, and as far as the messaging and the poking fun, because it is a comedy, it pokes
Mhm.
fun at this queer ideology, gender fluidity type of stuff. So I love it. I'm gonna watch it, and I'll let you know what I think about it.
Yeah, we should do a whole review of it.
Absolutely.
I think it's gonna be
Yep.
great. I mean, we're
Yeah.
already pretty biased that it's gonna be great. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I make fun of him all the time, so why not watch a movie that's making fun of him?
that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we got for today. If you've watched this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on breakaway_USA on all platforms. Join our email list, share the podcast, share episodes that you think are great, and leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. If we're doing awesome, if we're not, to be honest, we don't really read the comments anyway. That's one of the rules of social media is you don't read negative comments. But let us know if you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.